We are going to begin the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen meeting, March 7th, 2018. Let's start with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Should I skip DNF, or how would you do that?
I think I would do in two separate groupings.
Okay, so we're going to approve the minutes for February 6, 2018, February 7, 2018, February 15, 2018. We'll skip down to February 21st, 2018. There's two of those. And then February 26, 2018. A motion?
Make a motion to approve A, B, C, F, G, and H.
Second.
Vote? Unanimous? And now we'll need a motion to approve D and E, February 18 and February 19, and that's because Dale and I were the only ones present for those.
Make a motion to approve.
Second, and those in favor? 2, unanimous?
I abstained.
Okay. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 25, 27, accounts payable 23, 24, 26, 28.
Make a motion to approve payrolls number 25 and 27 and accounts payable 23, 24, 26, and 28.
Second.
So, unanimous? Item 4, open session. George?
George Newt, just following up on the meeting back in January when I addressed the board in concerns of the excise tractor tax. Just kind of a follow-up on that. I know everybody's been busy and this and that, and I will be gone in a month, and I will be out of your hair for 5 or 6, 7 months, but I would like to think when I got back in December that, you know, it's been brought to the board or whatever, but, you know, I still have concerns about it and this and that, and Lois was gonna do some research, see what things were, but just keep it on the radar, and I'd be tickled. So,
I think you have done some research.
Yeah, we did.
but you know, nothing to
Right.
do tonight, but just, that's all I had.
Well, I can tell you briefly, when I talked to MMA, they said anybody that pays their tractor tax, does so voluntarily, and they do it as an excise tax.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't pay it voluntarily, then we can put it on their personal property. But we do have to give them the choice: do you want to pay your excise, or do you want to let it go personal
But
property?
it's the true honor system at this point. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Anyone else?
You can entertain comments on the food sovereignty ordinance at that item agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Item 5, selectmen's concerns.
None.
None. Item 6, committee report.
The rec committee, we received today on their grant application for the Stephen Tabitha King, they were denied. And secondary road commissioner, I've been doing some bump signs, Line Road. I talked to Chris and Warren, and Warren's been going out with his tractor and trying to smooth the ruts down to eliminate the ruts, but the mud too eventually. He took out some gravel and was filling some potholes. He was able to scrape some gravel up. It's defrosted enough, so he was able to get enough gravel. I've put an advertisement in the newspaper for a April 1st to October 30, 20 to 40 hour employee. And we can get sand as needed. We have a couple of different sources. One is not mixed with salt, and one is mixed with salt. And so I talked to that person, and I will be going Monday, Tuesday, and I've worked it out that if Chris needs it, he can get it directly.
Good.
By the load.
by the load.
Yep.
I like
Okay.
that idea.
Yeah, we're only getting what we absolutely need. Is that it for reports?
Yes.
Item 7, new business. You want me to skip A?
Let's go to D.
D, Moosehead Cable.
Is it cable?
That is it.
Okay. My name is Bill Barney, and we apologize, EJ Richardson from Moosehead couldn't be here tonight, he had to be in Jackman. This is Stacy Thompson, Bill Baymine, and Andy Hinckley. And as you probably realize, that we're putting a fiber project from Dover to Monson. We're on the the final stages. And EJ had written a letter requesting that.
And he included pictures too of the location and,
And we have, Stacy's got some pictures of the map, of some maps and some other things about what we're doing. Go ahead, she'll pass them out to you. And we'd be glad to discuss what we're doing if anybody has any questions. We are putting a fiber cable on, Moosehead Cable's cable TV for that, which will eventually replace that too.
So is it down Route 15, just straight shot?
Yeah, Andy, you want to tell me?
It's actually not on Route 15 going through Sangerville. It's on, comes out Pine Street in Dover Foxcroft to Dowdy Hill Road.
Oh.
Comes down Dowdy Hill Road and then at the four corners straight up the hill and across. And out through past the Robinsons and the town garage and on out to Guilford.
Is that what's going on right now on Outer Pine Street? Or no, is that
Yeah.
lines down?
No, that's not.
That's you, okay, right now. So you're doing that right now? Is there a reason why you're not going down Route 15?
Yes.
Okay,
What's that?
and what is that?
The reason is that in the Dover Foxcroft end of it, the poles are crowded in the sense that we as attachers to the pole have to pay attention to. There's regulations, National Electrical Safety Code specifies spacing on poles, and it becomes expensive if there's not existing space on those poles for us to do things. Also, we pass more potential customers coming along Pine Street and Dowdy Hill Road. That's not to say that we would never be on Route 15, but at this time this looked like the best path to do most people the most good.
The reason we're going to Dover is that's where our source of broadband is. We can get all the broadband we need. We have a 3.5 gig or 3 gig connection going in there in a couple of weeks. And that can be turned up all the way to 10 by just switch it. We're gonna have a head end that's gonna be in the Miami Insurance Building in Dover. And it's all gonna be from there.
so you're gonna be going down the Dowdy Hill. Are you gonna be able to service like some of the side roads?
Yes. Well, anywhere that has cable now, Moosehead Cable has cable connections, we'll be able to do that. We're gonna expand it from that. The first thing is getting the main shop, and then where we get the demand, we've had a lot of people that have come in and we have a pre-sign up
Right.
thing that they can do. And we'll put that anywhere we've got customers. Our job is getting it hooked up to Dover and
Right.
all the way up through. She has a map on the laptop
Computer too.
if you want. If you'd be interested in just looking at a map on Google Earth.
This just goes to Guilford, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's just-
It's coming
Yeah, oh,
right
yeah,
straight
yeah.
into town.
Wow, that's right.
Because right now, you guys primarily just cover in town, right? I mean, you don't go out 23 very far or...
No, we're just, at this time, we're just mostly in town and we're losing cables. And we also have wireless and we have tower and things. And so we can't, kind of can do a number of things. We do DSL, we do wireless, and we do now fiber. And we're also in Washington County, we do 4G. And the way I understand it, 4G will be available too at some point in time. Which they all kind of have their little niches. They work better in certain places than others.
Right. Just to be clear, along Dowdy Hill Road, it will be in, if you look on Google Earth, you see the name Hudson Road on Route 23, basically from the four corners out to the town line. Is that an accurate name for?
Oh,
Hudson Avenue used to be when you went up over Hotel Hill going towards Guilford.
Okay,
But
that's the
that's
road
not
I'm
Pleasant.
talking about, although it,
Where the Public Works and Robinson's,
Yes.
that was always called Hudson Avenue.
okay, good.
I
Just
don't
to make
think
sure
there's
you
any more, I
determine.
think it's called something else.
Houses right
Pleasant
along-
Avenue.
Pleasant.
Houses right along Hudson Avenue, and houses right along Dowdy Hill Road will be servable when the project
I
is
do have
complete.
a Google Earth file of the whole project, that you can take a look at if you'd like to.
Yeah, so. Well, I don't know if this is Chucky Green.
You can find out.
No.
So,
Yeah.
again, we're under the impression that you need some access to town property.
The push box, the connection box.
And what is there lack of pole space, or is this, what's driving that?
Well, Andy, you can explain what we,
Well, two reasons. Number one, we have to have a cabinet somewhere that the fibers that are serving individual homes and businesses along the way come back to get at the electronics that then in its turn connects back to Dover. A reasonably central place is good for that. And secondly, the Moosehead Cable, existing cable TV network needs a power station somewhere within Sangerville that they don't currently have to deal with the increasing power requirements on that system. The reason that EJ wanted particularly to look at the town property there essentially is because it is town property and we're talking about something that's a public good and it doesn't require any extensive construction to get to a back piece of property somewhere such as the Moosehead existing cable TV head end. It's up a road over in Guilford and a little hard to get to, private property and so forth. This would make for a good location that's reasonably central to what we're trying to do in Sangerville. And that's essentially the reason.
Okay. There was some discussion, it was with the budget committee, I think, but is there any opportunity for a kind of a quid pro quo where if we grant you land, you could help us with it? Because we have internet access for the library, the town. We could conceivably have it, we have the fire station. Is there a way that could work for the town?
So you mean for us to give you access to all those locations?
Right now, there's 3 locations.
Well, the library doesn't need it because they're on a federal public library thing.
Sure, so it's a
So
town
it'd just be
office.
the town office and the fire station would be the only 2 locations.
And it wouldn't be cable TV, it would be internet.
It would just be
access.
internet.
Just the, just
Yeah.
fiber.
Yep. And that's something you can think about.
And what would you use it for? Just
Yes.
town business? eh?
Yeah.
I would be willing to do that with the stipulation that that's all it's used for.
Because the Wi-Fi that's here comes through the library, correct? And that's
Well, the library has Wi-Fi that's available to anybody that comes in. They
correct.
have a
But that's what I'm
gift.
saying, that's the
Yeah.
library, that's not the town offices,
Correct.
and that's not the fire department.
Correct,
Ours are only for us.
right,
I mean,
yeah.
I'd be willing to furnish the town office with fiber. And that would just be a stipulation, it would be for town office only, not for the other things. A lot of towns are talking about putting up free Wi-Fi all through town.
No, that's not what I'm.
And it hasn't really worked out anywhere that they've ever tried it. And And obviously, I don't want to have to feed that. We
Right.
can pay for broadband.
No, but that, I think that would be a nice, I mean, that's a fixed cost that all the citizens have going forward, and I don't see it going down.
And you probably forego the taxes on this box for more.
Oh, you didn't say that, did you?
No,
No, absolutely not.
and I'm not, there are liability issues, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
where you need to put the box and all that.
We have
but-
certificate insurance and everything.
Yeah.
We do that everywhere we have boxes. And we have a lot of them, so.
Well,
Did
there's kind of
DJ
a-
tell you exactly where he was going to be putting the box, by the
Yeah,
way?
we saw that.
He took
They did.
pictures.
Yeah, there, picture. And we can put the box, we've had people, residents have come to
I don't know,
us
move it around.
and would be glad to have us put it on their property, but, and get an easement to do that, but.
Right.
This kind of
Right.
works out better.
Yep.
Is this box silent?
Yes, yeah. No,
No hum,
no.
Really?
buzz.
No, is there Andy?
And to the extent that there would be a hum, you don't have to be inside it to hear it. It's not, for example, like a cable TV pole-mounted box that sometimes you can walk by and hear them humming. It's not loud like that.
Is the box you spoke of, is that a DSL?
Yeah, I live
Where
across
did
from
you do that,
Fairpoint.
okay?
It's very loud.
That's DSL.
Yeah.
Is that different than this? Than,
I was at 5. Well, no, there's no DSL, no copper lines, it's all fiber.
Yeah.
oh, so that's what makes the hum is the copper.
Just 'cause I
Well,
just get up.
What makes the hum is the age of the equipment. Most of the older Fairpoint sites
Oh, I see.
have
Yeah, I see.
non-solid state
That's all right.
inverters and chargers, and they do
Got it.
And I do
get a
have
60
information
cycle
with
hum
you too
pretty
today about the
pretty
plans that
regularly.
we built.
And a lot of noise is from cooling fans that's inside of that
Yeah,
cabinet. It cools
that
that
too.
down.
Thank you.
So on a good day in my house, I get a very noticeable hum. And then the fan kicks in, and then you have a very annoying man all the time.
We can get everybody to change the fiber, they'll shut that down.
Mike, remember one of the concerns was whether that was gonna be within the right of way?
Yeah, there was some,
You know, it was.
The 50 is a
It
setback.
has to be off the.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be.
DOT setback.
Correct.
Yeah.
Would have to be.
Typically in other towns, do you pay rent or you just are taxed for how does that work?
Actually, typically, other towns will give us anything we want to put fiber on. Everybody wants fiber. And very seldom do we have
overrated.
anybody who we have to argue and stick with. No, be truthful with you.
You guys are being hard,
I mean,
Really?
I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but it's very limited to town access.
Right, I mean, we wouldn't do that.
It's extremely limited.
Right,
no, I think that's,
You think
the
it would be
proposal's a
hard to
fair
live on Dowdy
proposal.
Hill?
that's right.
What's that?
But we have nothing, we have nothing.
You have Fairpoint.
Nothing.
But you can get now the fiber optics.
That's what he
This is
said.
a service that's going to increase businesses. And
That's
I
why-
don't
that's
think
why it's
I
important.
don't think you as select people want to do that.
Do what?
increase business.
Decrease business.
Oh, no,
No, we're not talking
absolutely
about
not.
that.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No,
That's where I'm coming from.
right.
No, there was no desire to decrease business.
No,
It seems like that should work. I mean, we just need to work out the details in terms of the liability, the location and all that.
so we'll have EJ get in touch with you
Yep.
and give you a certificate of insurance and just an agreement.
Right, once we get that all together, we'll have to approve it, and
Sure.
I don't see any problem.
I think everybody would be really happy in town.
I bet they will be.
Everywhere we've done this, we did a project in Surrey and I mean, it's unbelievable what people have signed up for down there and how happy they are. We can do anywhere from 10 megs down to 100, more than anybody really needs, so.
and Stacy mentioned that she could just briefly give us a sort of an idea of plans, like the cost of a plan.
Sure.
You know,
Actually,
because you're
they're-
talking about areas that can afford it. I don't
Yeah.
know how many.
The papers are right in front of you. The entry-level plan is gonna start at $54.95.
A month.
A month.
A month.
Yep, and that is 10 down and up. It's symmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
And the plans go up from there with the top plan, even at 100 megs, is less than $100 a month. Installation is typically $199.95. We do a pre-sale offer, so if customers want to put in a deposit, we match that so that they get free installation. We offer that for a short period of time at the beginning when we start doing installations. So entry level is pretty affordable as well.
The other thing with this is, with Fairpoint, if anybody that has DSL and some of these things, and our wireless is the same way, it's up to 5 megs down, maybe 1 or 2 megs up. Ours is 10 and 10, or 50 and 50. You buy, you get what you pay for.
And how far off of the main trunk it would be a feasible connection? I mean, is it only along the road that you're along Dowdy Hill Road, down up Pleasant Avenue? I mean, how far off of that can you go if a house were in a ways off of those roads?
Well, we can go as far as needed, but we'd have to have a cluster of 4 or 5 houses and maybe in the miles. You know, we like to have, ideally, we have 20 houses within a mile, but we know we don't always get that up in rural Maine.
And you always stay on the poles, correct? You don't go through the woods or anything?
Through what?
The woods.
We're on the poles.
You're on the poles.
And once in a while, sometimes we have to
Well, no, the only...
improvise, but
Right, the only reason I ask is because you're going up Pleasant Avenue, down through into Guilford. But up behind Robinson's, up there is Thomas Road, is McFeeters Road, and there's quite a few houses on McFeeters Road.
do it, is cable
Where-
TV up there?
Yes, we go down McFeeters Road.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going down
we go
McFeeters?
that, yeah.
Well,
Everything
Moosehead
Moosehead Cable is,
Oh, okay.
see, the advantage of doing it with Moosehead Cable is they have the poles are licensed. So there's no make ready. All we do is latch onto the cables. So we're able to go up these side roads that he has cable on, compared to doing it
Sure.
without anything, it's much cheaper.
We've actually had 2 residents from the town drive down yesterday and put in their deposits already.
I'm sure.
I think we should say, not all of, like, McFeeters Road would be a later
Right.
phase of the project, or heading down 23 towards Flanders Hill, that would be a later phase. It's not all going to be done right now. We've got to get this main part going first, and I don't know, are we in a position to give them a time frame for later on?
The customers who are contacting us now, and they're very excited, I've got Facebook responses to go tonight too. What I'm telling them, I really don't have a time frame, and people really want to make the deposits anyway. So
I mean,
we're
I can
just
tell
being
you,
open with
if
them
you
about
get
it.
10 or 12 people on one of these roads, we're gonna do it right off.
Right.
That's how we gotta generate
Sure,
income.
sure.
So they would just like go door to door, collect a signature list and give it to your office?
Actually, on the form that I left up there that we can pass around, you can do it that way for sure. And the email addresses are on there as well, so it's just a matter of a quick email. And the other thing that you can do on our website at Premium Choice Broadband /I Want Fiber, there's a form that can be filled out there, just takes a moment.
Is that something I can copy and just leave on my counter?
There's a whole slew of them right here, so
Okay.
there's
So
a
that's
whole
what-
pack here.
Yeah, where are those?
This is a little pamphlet that you can put, whoop,
I'll leave these out there too.
I say, and it gives the
Yeah.
pricing, and it tells about fiber and why fiber is better and so on.
Okay.
And if you need any more of those, if you share an email address, I can send things electronically as well, so that you
Okay.
have them, and you can just refer to them.
And the office you said is in the Barney Insurance down in Dover? Is
It's
that-
not the office, that's where the connections are all gonna be.
Oh,
That's
oh,
gonna feed everything.
I see. Where's your office?
Rural.
Oh, in Brewer.
As well as Charles.
And we have an office in Charleston, we have an office in Greenville.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Great.
great.
So I guess you're gonna work out the details. I'll have EJ get a hold of you
Yep.
and we'll get it done.
Good.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Don't forget your computer.
Yeah.
A couple of years, stopping in out there.
Still live way off.
Because I knew we had to get there quick enough.
Where do you wanna go now?
You'll get it when I get
I was thinking.
That's up to you. You wanna do the, get into the food sovereignty?
Yeah, might as well, because PCEDC is not
It's
here.
not here. It's not one of the.
I knew where you
it
was going.
the
I
6th
said,
of March meeting.
I knew what you really meant, the water.
Because he did call and tell me he was coming.
County Development, are they still gonna put a presentation on about?
They are,
They're supposed to be here.
Yeah,
yeah.
can we set them up what they have?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
They're not here yet.
They're just, we're not positive they're gonna show up, yeah.
You forgot your computer,
He called and
Stacy.
he said he would be here.
So we'll wait a few minutes.
Sure.
Yeah,
You're
no.
more than welcome to stay the whole
What they have to
meeting.
say and what their plan is.
Yeah, let me give, I can,
It'd be wonderful.
It might be better with you here, because you can answer questions for us.
We might as well move to E, the food sovereignty ordinance, because it appears that you folks are here. So, you have the floor.
Okay. Recently, I gave Lois 2 PDF files. One was the one I found of the 2017 version of this that was circulated with the petition, which
that's the two.
is, I guess technically, what would go to the town meeting to be voted upon because it was what was petitioned. I also included the 2018 model, which has been developed subsequent to changes in state law that have direct bearing on this. So, and the changes aren't necessarily substantial. They, in the earlier version, the ordinance said various things for authorization, I think, in that section, particularly to try to beef up any potential preemption from the state. But since that was developed, that's exactly what the state law was passed this summer does, is it forgoes preemption if a town adopts this ordinance. So the 2018 version has that state law in it, and the 2017 language comes out. So I guess in my thinking, my understanding of how things would go, at a public hearing, these changes would be discussed and people would be sort of informed as to what happened and why, but that both items would go to town meeting with the idea of passing on or voting down the original one and adopting the second. If there's any
I'll double
specific
check that because
questions, yeah.
I was under the impression we could do the changes and only do one vote. But I can check on it.
Okay.
And both of you, Lois did a fair amount of, at least started some research on this. And you've reached out to other communities that are in this same process.
Right.
Have you two read? Okay.
I have.
And in that process, just like our town, most of these towns reach out to MMA because it's free and they're usually pretty responsive. So we've got some back and forth with these different municipalities and MMA. And the one thing that they keep kind of repeating is that that a municipality really shouldn't consider doing this without consulting the town's attorney and drawing up an ordinance through that method. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it seems like MMA is seeing this as kind of a thorny issue. And their recommendation over and over is spend the money, get an attorney, and draw up the ordinance that way. Which obviously we haven't had the time to do, or we don't have, actually, we don't even have the funds to do it right now. But that's, at least when I read it, that's kind of what I came away with.
Time and time again,
That's how this continues.
The reasoning behind that is because if the lawsuit occurs because of the ordinance, our attorneys have to be able to defend it,
Okay,
defend the ordinance.
Yep.
And so that's why that they want us to work with our attorneys to make sure that it is defendable if it goes to court.
okay. Yeah. You realize there's no liability to the town directly as a result of this ordinance?
Yeah,
yeah, I don't get that. I mean, from the advice that we've gotten from council, MMA's council, I mean, and I don't know, Steve's not been privy to this.
no, I have not given it.
Right.
I can give him my copy. So you can see that this is the back and forth that Shiloh, that I mentioned
Oh, yeah,
before.
in
had-
Jay.
In Jay, yeah, had with Rich Llewellyn from Maine Municipal.
And Richard Llewellyn is the attorney, and he seems to be the one that's following, he seems to be the one that's always answers the food.
It's that, because that's what they do. Once it's assigned to an
Right.
attorney, it's
Oh, okay,
always the
okay.
same attorney.
Okay, so he is the one that continues to answer the questions when those come in on food sovereignty.
Yeah.
And time again, he says, I'm just trying to, well, you'll see. Do not go forward unless you get legal counsel.
Well, MMA has a publication too, and each select board member gets it. It's called the Maine Townsman. And it's, like, maybe not a coincidence, but in December, there was an article in there regarding exactly this. And they repeat this again. There's several paragraphs here, but we recommend that interested municipalities work with local legal counsel to prepare an ordinance that both conforms to the statute and meets local objectives. And this is kind of the drumbeat that we're getting from MMA. It seems like this law has, this condition has been pretty fluid over the last year. State reacted, the feds reacted, and the state reacted again. So MMA is kind of saying, proceed with caution.
Do you understand what that wrinkle was about, though?
Well, from reading this article, it had to do with poultry and meat.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And the feds threatened to come in and take over.
Usurp the
Yep.
inspection process, right. And so that was sort of the same application as this ordinance to avoid preemption by the next level up. The state was forced to do that with the feds. They had to
Right,
acquiesce.
right.
That's right.
So I'm on the face of it, we need to do more due diligence before we could proceed, I believe. That's kind of my gut feeling.
Especially, I mean, this is counsel that, obviously we would get our private counsel, but MMA is saying, we suggest you get private counsel to proceed and to assist in the writing of the ordinance. Right? I mean.
Yeah,
They
that's the
even
way
go
I
so
read it.
far, now I don't know that they've seen what you have submitted, but they go so far as to say that they've gone to some of these websites and they haven't seen an ordinance yet that they thought would.
Comply
Comply.
or hold.
So and again, I don't know that they're referencing exactly what was submitted, but that certainly gives us pause.
What about how do you read the 22 communities that have already adopted it?
What you're looking at right now is the amount of research we've had time to do since this was brought to us. I'm not opposed to continuing the research, I just think we need to do more.
And these two drafts that you have are from a particular town?
No, they're referred to as the model ordinance that a number of towns draw on. They may make slight modifications to tailor it to their needs. or circumstance.
So the first draft I've marked over here is what he used when he's
Okay, yeah.
circulated his petition.
2017.
Yeah, and then the 2018 is the updated version that has the changes that he would like to make into the 17 version.
Or that I would suggest.
Override, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So it's not a no, it's just we need to do a little more
So how
research
does the
and
60-day timing work on this thing?
60 day for what?
Once the petition was submitted, you have 60
They
days to
have-
set it.
They can, no, they don't, they can deny putting it on a warrant
With reasonable.
with reasonable cause. And in this particular instance, I think their reasonable cause is they're questioning the legality of it, which is a reasonable cause.
That's where, if we're going to consult MMA, and we all do, whether it's,
All towns do.
yeah,
It's not
road
just us,
stuff,
I mean.
and if we consult them and they say, warning, I'd step away from that, here's how I would proceed, hire your own counsel. If we're not gonna heed that, then why
Why ask the
even call?
question? Right.
So it would seem to me that if this is gonna be advanced, ultimately, these drafts would need to be submitted to the town's attorney, which involves expenses, and it might be a great thing, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Our budget hasn't been approved for, so.
We're in limbo right now as far as spending money, so we can't really move forward. And right now, we haven't budgeted for this in the new budget, correct? Or
Well,
will
it's
we
just
have
legal
legals?
fees,
Right,
just legal
okay,
fees.
Okay, okay. But you know, it's, if you ask the question and they say, we suggest you use the town's attorney and get legal, I mean, it would not be,
You were pretty much handcuffed at
Right.
that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, to
Right.
me, it doesn't, the topic doesn't matter. It's
exactly,
that comment
that's right. It,
for the town, that should mean you should make
that
sure we're okay.
we need to, then we have to go through that avenue. And time-wise, I don't think that we have the time.
Well, you're not alone. One of the towns, I don't remember which town, but it's exactly the same thing, is we'll continue to look at this, but we're not gonna have this ready for, this
Right.
year's town meeting.
Is
So,
that Jay?
That is Jay, yeah.
I mean, we have to get this warrant finalized, get this to print, to get these back.
Correct.
When's our deadline
For print,
to be at printers?
Friday.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yes,
When you say you're gonna look into it, what does that mean?
look into,
Into the legality?
oh, no, if we're gonna advance this, we'd have to come to an agreement that we're gonna either submit it to the town attorney, maybe if we form a committee to look at the type of question. I'm not sure. Like I said, what you're seeing here today is the total amount of research that we've had time to do on this.
But his question was following up on your statement that you need to have this looked into. And so what exactly does that mean?
Well, no, I guess I was referring to the legal clarification that MMA was suggesting.
Okay, so you're going
If,
to, I'm sorry, you're going to seek some legal counsel so that if it comes back to these people that have signed this, we'll have a good justification.
well, I think MMA has already given us the justification not to advance it in terms of the petition. If we have a legal concern on a petition, any petition,
MMA reported to you three, the select board of Sangerville directly, or did you lift that out of an article?
both.
it's
No,
responses.
it wasn't, it was to the
was to-
Shiloh and Jay,
Correct.
but she has the same ordinances because, they,
It's
it's the
they
same one
presented
that's
the
on that
same-
Richard King's webpage.
There's precedent set in other communities, is what you're trying to get at. MMA has established a precedent that you should, sorry.
Oh.
Pardon me for
We saw you
interjecting.
speaking.
MMA has established a precedent for a situation like this where they're saying it needs to be run by local municipalities, legal legal consultation before they move forward with it. So basically what they've done is you're benefiting from someone else's question to MMA and from other legal decisions that say, instead of trying to do this on your own and assuming what the document says or the recommendation is, have legal counsel review it, in essence.
That's correct.
But the meaningful part is it does state that they haven't seen one yet that complies. So even with 22 towns that have adopted this, I'm guessing, but I would think that MMA has seen those, or a percentage of those, and this is still saying they don't comply. So that's another trigger or an alarm that we really needed to move forward through legal. And until we have a budget, we don't have legal.
Right.
No, even with, you wouldn't, we don't have time.
So this paragraph, I don't know, do you want me to read the one that basically
Go
says-
ahead.
So municipalities that have adopted or are considering adopting food sovereignty ordinances should carefully review them to ensure that they are consistent with these statutory limitations. Most ordinances circulating on food sovereignty websites are not. MMA does not have and does not anticipate drafting a one-size-fits-all model ordinance, in part because different communities are apt to have differing ordinance objectives. Instead, we recommend that interested municipalities work with local legal counsel to prepare an ordinance that both conforms to the statute and meets local objectives. So that's the paragraph, right? And it goes on to say that, besides food sovereignty ordinances, there's other ways to support local farms and local movement. But again, we are working off the coattails of Jay's, the extensive work that Jay, that municipality has done with Richard Llewellyn down at MMA. So, I guess we as a board decide whether we feel that we want to go forward and seek legal counsel to move this forward.
Well, I think the point of this meeting is whether we're going to advance this petition.
Right.
And and we haven't chosen to do that.
Right.
And these are the reasons why.
To this town warrant,
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
but not
Not-
outdating
No.
it for the future.
If we had started this conversation in August, I'm confident that we would be ready now.
I can see that.
And so I would suggest that we continue this conversation, but it's not gonna be for the meeting at the end of the month.
Right.
And we can brainstorm this together as to how you wanna do this, but maybe a committee would be useful. I don't know if the planning board has been engaged on this or not, but these seem like areas where maybe that's a good way to advance this. But
I met with the planning board not long ago, and everybody present, we had an excellent conversation, by the way, but everybody present supported this. So
I would love to
I don't
have,
know if it falls to them, it's not specifically land use
No.
but related, but
I
they
would
do work with ordinances.
I would like to have a conversation about what it is that we're trying to protect and what the concerns are. That's not really what is blocking this. It's too open-ended for us right now, I think.
Yeah, just proceeding cautiously and doing it right the first time.
What I'd like to do is get through the budget, get through the town meeting so we have an active budget.
Right.
So we would have funds available to move this forward. And maybe we could actually have a workshop with the planning board about this topic and then get everybody on board with where it's at and what needs to happen, and then figure out as a bigger group, where do we go from there?
Then you could invite your people that,
Yeah, there's two ways to do that. One is start there and then bring in some outside folks, or have the outside folks meet at that initial point.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to wait all the way till next year. I mean,
No, I would
if
not
a
do
special ended up rolling in that we were going to have, we could tack it on there if everything's teed up and ready to go. But we're just not ready. It's not ready.
Yeah, well, I think if we do another petition, we want to be, ready so that we're not wasting our time either.
Right.
And then again, wasting your time.
And I don't know that you need another petition.
Right.
If we form a committee and we are all comfortable with the ordinance, we can advance the ordinance without another signature.
Correct.
You clearly demonstrated there's some interest,
Right.
so.
I didn't mention it formally, but both Granges in town formally support this,
State Grange.
and the state Grange.
Uh-huh.
I wanna be
We're lucky to
clear,
have two active ones in town.
it's not that we
I
don't
know,
support
it's-
it.
Right,
We-
no, not at all. That's,
Yeah, I'm
and
not saying I don't
Yeah,
support
yeah,
it, I
and
just
then-
wanna make sure all of our ducks in a row and
There-
it comes out right in the end, that's all I want.
yeah, and there has to be a public hearing, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, we're just crunched for time, I would say, to,
In your opinion, do you think that MMA will still look into this and maybe come up with a model?
they said no.
They say they don't have any intention of doing
They have
that.
no interest.
No,
Okay.
they said they're not, they don't see themselves doing a, one size fits all.
Statewide model.
Nope,
No.
no,
But that, I would suspect that could change if the dialogue between the states and the Fed. It looks like right now, the state has not offered the level of clarity that MMA is looking for. And so they're just stepping back. Which is not unusual, I would suspect.
Well, I think to some degree too, the one size fits most model is that one. So they obviously don't have much inclination to go about
yeah.
tweaking that, and they don't have that in their billable hours budget anyway to be creating something that's already done. They do have a tendency to look at things a particular way, so I'd be interested to see how this goes further with them.
They're obviously getting quite a number of inquiries.
They are.
Well, yeah, someday soon we'll be on the right side of that too, hopefully.
I think for 2018, that's the way to pursue this. I don't think that you need another petition. I think what we need to do is form a committee and answer questions, kind of create an energy so that we can spend the money to
Right.
get an opinion on our ordinance.
Okay. We'll sort of be locked in to the 60-day thing from 16th, I think, when it was stamped. But I think that could be generalized to the next special or some such thing.
I don't know
Yeah, I
anything
know.
about the 60 days. Do you, Lois, do you?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what he's,
Well, I guess it gets stamped
It
in
does get-
60 days
yes.
to enact it, or
You have
that's
60 days to act on
To
it.
either have a meeting or to set a meeting,
or deny.
or to
Oh.
deny, for reasonable cause.
Oh,
So what you're saying is you would like us not to make a motion?
I don't know if that's what I'm saying.
Both.
You
I mean,
want
because
it-
honestly, because what's gonna happen right now, we're not gonna be able to move this forward to get this on the town meeting.
right.
So if we made a motion tonight, it wouldn't go in your favor. So if we don't make a motion tonight, it moves it out to, we would have to do it before the end of the 60 days.
I'm not positive on that. When I read the process of petition, there's very few grounds in which we can deny the petition. And one explicitly is legal concern.
Correct.
And so it's that repeated cautionary note from MMA that gives this board, I think, not only the grounds, but the obligation to stop. But that's just my opinion.
I would like to see it, just as you put it before, we just table it, and we're not, actually, the way the town feels right now, it doesn't feel like it needs another petition, and that would give a favorable cast to the whole thing. I like that, and that gives us,
Yep.
something, hope, and it doesn't completely flat out and
Yeah.
shut the whole process down.
But is he correct that we have to either we have 60 days to
We
make
do
that?
have some obligation in statute to respond to this petition. And I don't know if it's as simple as, in this case, sharing with you why we have denied its movement to the warrant.
I will
But-
look it up.
But beyond that, I think that approach is the way to go. I don't think we need another petition. What we need is education and everybody working
Right.
kind of in the same direction.
Yep.
Kinda on, what Toby was saying, if you took action and you declined the petition, and then, oh my, I signed the petition and this and that, but, you don't, that would just look bad upon the board as they denied the ordinance and blah, blah, blah. And then it would be just like starting from ground zero again, and that's not the case. They wanna cover their half but I think they're in good faith that they wanna move on with this.
Yes.
Do it right, get it right, and,
Now, it
and I
may be,
understand where he's coming from, 60 days, but to get a clear denial, I don't like
So can we do that? Can we deny the petition?
well, I'm wondering if
on
you
these
can
grounds?
withdraw the petition. And that we can check tomorrow and see if that's a possibility. But if you simply withdraw the petition, then we don't have to reject the petition. And
I don't think you
everybody,
can.
well, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure either.
I don't think you can.
But I think, and I agree with what's been said here. I'm just thinking that I believe you are constrained somewhat with that 60-day, not setting a meeting within 60 days, within the 60-day period, but within the 60 days you have to set. And I think it could be nebulous, like when we do the special.
Right.
But I think that, I was just bringing
What if we
that
made a
up.
motion to deny the petition due to the legality that,
Legal concerns.
the legal concerns that we are, and at the same time make a second motion afterwards that we all agree to educate ourselves to possibly move forward later,
That's not illegal.
okay?
It's not one.
I'm just trying to, how do you cover both?
Well, not tonight anyway, you're
Yeah.
not in a position to.
Yep.
Chris?
So what about coming out and denying for legal reasons, but in the minutes, take a vote that says we would like to form a committee to see this through, that we denied as a result of legal reasons. The board in concept approves looking at this ordinance with legal guidance as subject to funding from the budget, which allows you to satisfy the 60-day period, but also say, we're not saying we don't believe in this. We're
Right.
saying we want to put time and energy into this, but we're confined by the 60 days. So that it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And in that case, you don't necessarily need to have a petition to bring the ordinance through. The town is committing at that point to do the due diligence to help see that through for the next special or your annual meeting next year.
Right, and even if we do have to go back for another petition, we can explain to them, no, it was not shot completely down. The board wasn't that, of that philosophy, and this was more of a compromise, and that would, okay, I'll sign it again.
Sure. Go ahead.
I don't agree with the notion of turning it down. I think that would be, because you have legal indications, but not legal basis. So I'd be cautious on that one, I think. But if there's some other way to develop your committee idea, don't.
Well, we have another meeting between now and town meeting, and it will occur before the 60 days are up.
21st, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so
We need
between
guidance
that,
from there.
yeah,
can
between
table.
now and then, we will know what our options
Yeah.
are, and we'll have an opportunity to craft
And
perhaps
consult.
something like what
Yeah.
Chris suggested. So I would think that maybe if we table this until our next meeting,
Yeah.
we can,
Make a motion to table.
Second?
any further discussion? Favor? Unanimous. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
your patience.
Thank you.
buried my agenda someplace.
Here's mine.
All right. Yep. Where would you like to go now?
7A,
Okay.
Chris is here.
PCEDC Technology Report.
Thank you, I apologize, I was running late, I got tied up in Greenville at another meeting, that's kind of been the way the day has gone. I had originally planned on running back to the office in Dover and grabbing copies of this for you. It's on our website, and I will drop off 3 copies to Lowe's, probably not tomorrow with the snow, but so it's here for next week, but you can grab it off of our webpage. As you might remember, Piscataquis County Economic Development came to you a little over a year ago, asked you to be one of our participating communities in our technology plan. We received funding from the Attorney General's office to do our plan. So the plan combined kind of 3 pieces. Conversations and surveys with our community members. So us as individuals, right? Because when you're looking at figuring out what a community needs, you have 2 different levels. You have what us as regular consumers will use, and then you have what our businesses will use. We did business surveys, and then we also held meetings with our service providers as part of this. When we were awarded the funds, we went through an RFP process, and Axiom was our winning provider to actually pull together our technology as well as the digital inclusion and workforce plan. So the plan is rather thick. It has all communities throughout the county, so it's kind of a nice way to look and see that some of the challenges that Sangerville faces may be similar challenges to other communities throughout the county. Same thing with some of those solutions are also very similar. So we did the community surveys, we did the business surveys, we talked with our internet service providers, and then we did a technological assessment. The surveys with businesses went a little bit deeper than just the normal questions that we asked the consumers because we wanted to be able to start pulling together resources as a result of workforce development as well as digital inclusion. So that's kind of, those responses are what drove the workforce and inclusion plan. So I highly recommend that you look that over. I'm going to give you kind of a high level tonight. As you remember, when we started this process, we asked a couple of things. You know, what does Sangerville want to see as one of the results for their communities beyond just a faster speeds and the ability to access? And one of the things that was identified was the need for a fiber connection to the old school. The thought process with redevelopment at that point was that it might open the door for a multitude of uses. So in the plan, Axiom has actually given the price of what that build out would look like. From when we started with the plan to when it's being delivered today, one of our service providers, Mainstream, came in under the Premium Choice umbrella, and Premium has run fiber from Dover Foxcroft up, and you can please correct me if I misspeak, Andy, from Dover Foxcroft up to Monson, and then I believe you guys are further connecting into Greenville. So I'm not sure what their build-out plans are for Sangerville, because that has changed since we went through this project. So that's a question to Andy and to Premium to see what their connection speeds are. What the report recommended was, it recommended working with, at that point, Fairpoint, because they had fiber that was running through the area, as the existing. And kind of the way Axiom approached it was the lowest hanging fruit for our communities is usually the guidance that they gave to start with. Following up that fiber connection, and they put in, estimation of what that price would be. They also gave the suggestion of having a wireless network that could get into some of the areas that are outside of town to give people the ability to connect. From a very high level standpoint, when they looked at what Fairpoint currently has and being able to connect the school, had a price tag of around $12,700 to connect the school to fiber off of their existing lines. And then depending on how many community members you want to serve when you look at the wireless options, that's right around about $150,000. And that's designed to get the signal, so you take a strong supporting signal and to get that out further. So those were the 2 major options that they came back and identified. We, PCEDC, have said to our communities that we want to help continue the conversation with this to determine what your build out will look like. I can help have conversations. The first conversation that you need to have though is with Premium to see what their expanded service looks like, what the pricing models are, what the connection speeds are, what the ability is for your residents to be able to access it. If the school's not on their current delivery site, that would be another conversation with them to say if that's something that's still important to the town, to say to Premium, okay, how much is it gonna be for you to bring direct wire, bring direct fiber to that building? And then compare it with what you have and have conversations with both of your existing providers. It's always better to work with your local people before trying to bring someone else in. For your residents who are living outside of the center of town where it may still be a challenge to get faster speeds to them, that's where that wireless solution comes in. The digital inclusion piece, why that's important, the work that Premium's doing, the work that Fairpoint's been doing, the work that anyone's doing around broadband of getting connection points into communities is only as good as the actual usage of it. So the idea behind digital inclusion is you start to bring up the understanding and the ability to engage in businesses, education, recreation based off of internet service. So basically making that argument for it's here, this is why it's important. Also looking at the ability to train our next generation of workforce, to help our current workforce receive the training that they need so that as jobs and technologies change, we have a workforce that can adapt. So that's kind of what that plan gets into. You'll be able to see some of the trends as a result of the conversations with businesses. They start to point to, if you own a business, we had a lot of business owners who were asking for assistance with simple things like social media, or more complex things like QuickBooks, for example, which is a program that can be very beneficial, but it can also be one that creates a lot of challenges for folks. Then they get into some of the other skills of, okay, we're looking for employees who are competent on the Microsoft Office suites, some of the different tools that businesses use. So I will drop those 3 copies off to you on probably Tuesday of next week. I'm traveling Monday. So, but it is on our website. You can look at it. I would not recommend printing it because it eats up a lot of paper and ink. It's got a lot of color in it. So, any questions at all? So I guess what we've put ourselves on is as you look to have some of those conversations, or if you look to go after grant funding for any of those solutions, we're more than happy to write those grants for you. Again, no cost. We've got the perfect price tag attached to us, and we'll work with those service providers. But I think the first conversations you need to have are with Andy and with Mr. Varney at Premium to find out what their build will really result in, and see if it serves your needs. If not, say to them, okay, so we have other areas we want to see lit up. How can we partner together? How can we go after some funding working together to be able to provide those services? Andy, did I misspeak at all?
No, as far as you went. The project, as these folks already heard, they heard from us before you.
Okay.
So they know pretty much what we're up to.
Okay.
I do have, we do have wireless.
Oh, Mr. Varney. Sorry about that.
We do have wireless, and we've upgraded. We get Sangerville now, we're upgraded. Yeah. We've got the latest technology on it. We can go, many times the speeds of 10 and 15 with the new stuff. We cover the area pretty well with wireless, and this is just with fiber is going to be that much better. Everybody can be on fiber. We're kind of a hybrid, as I said before. We have wireless, and we have DSL, and we have a lot of options.
So for those people that we may not be able to serve immediately with fiber, they may qualify for DSL or wireless service.
So it's always better to start with your local service provider and instead of trying to replace them. And that's something Andy and I talked about way back when. That's always been our goal, is to figure out how we can help folks access it. There's a need. And we're very fortunate with Premium's investment, because one of the things that was identified in this report was the need for extending the 3-ring binder from Dover Foxcroft up to Greenville. They in essence have done that with their build out of the fiber. So, it saves a major investment piece. So a lot of respect needs to go to Premium for their investment in that, and the partnership that they've run.
Oh, so it's a partnership with Libra?
Libra funded the portion, I think, up towards Monson, and then you invested a large portion, a small piece. They did They made the
They did a
investments back.
They did a mile in Watson
Yeah.
to cover their buildings.
Oh,
And we did 40 between 39.
And what's the average price on a mile of fiber these days?
Fortunately, it was $30,000, but we've done enough now, we've learned enough so that we've cut it quite a bit from that. But it used to be $30,000 a month.
So when you hear Fairpoint doing a lot of their expansion work, in some places where it's underserved and unserved, it's as a result of CAF2 funding, which is federal funding. A lot of the investments that they've been making have been going into boosting their copper, so they're not actually replacing with fiber. They use fiber to get signals to and from, but it's not designed as a fiber build out. So what we're getting with Premium's investment, that's a significant investment in the county. So again, all of that changed midway through this, so that piece kind of changes some of the stuff that we did in the reports. But again, local service providers always have a conversation with them first. And to Mr. Barney, who I apologize for not seeing you in front of me, and to Andy, if you need any help with the Connect Main Authority grants, please let us know. So that offer is still out there.
Thank you.
But take a look at it. I'll drop off printed copies. Please don't print it yourself because you will kill a tree and drain your ink cartridges. And again, I apologize for running late. My meeting that was supposed to be over at 3 didn't end until 5 o'clock. So.
You didn't hold us up at all?
No, no.
We just switched it all around. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item B. Hazardous mitigation.
Yeah, it's from the county. Tom Capraro met with me last summer, trying to target problem areas that we have in town, and I was new to the area at that point. So we did a little bit of update, but basically have to sign it to have it approved by the state.
Okay.
That's all.
You don't need a motion?
No, just a signature.
He wrote that? That was generated from the state? No.
Tom Capraro. Yeah, he brought, I mean, they have to update it every so many years, and it was due to be updated, so. I think it's every 5 years they have to update it.
Oh, okay.
Is she down near the clock?
Well, she's on that end now.
There you go.
So you're fine.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? You can talk to
You
Jay.
guys will work out the details.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
C, sign the town warrant. Moderator to swear in town clerk, selectmen, and school board.
So, I mean, we talked about this before, but we just wanted to make sure that, I went through these a little bit. So I'm removing the two articles that said the moderator swears in the town clerk and the moderator swears in the selectmen, because it's not required, because they're not, because you have the town manager plan, and I'm the one that should be appointing the town clerk, not even the board. So I will be appointing her, and I do the swearing in, so she doesn't have to, and then the town clerk can swear in the selectman, the moderator does not have to do that. So that's why
Town
I'm,
clerk will be out for before the town meeting,
correct,
Perfect.
yes.
and then that can happen after.
On Article 13, I added in the word private for the grants. It says to apply for and accept grants from private, state, and federal agencies that do not require matching funds from the town or impose contractual obligations on the town. Because when we apply, like the Stephen and Tabitha King, that's a private. The Maine Community Fund is a private. I believe the Libra Foundation is a private. So we want to make sure that when we get those grants that we can accept them without having to go back to another town meeting.
That's good.
Article 17, I changed the wording a little bit on the revenue. I left homestead exemption open-ended because it's relative to what your mill rate is. So if I budget $65,000 for homestead exemption, then count that as revenue. But when we do our actual commitment, it could be, based on these figures that I've been running, 83,000. So that leaves us almost 20,000 that would go into surplus and not be able to be used to offset our mill rate. So if I leave this as open-ended and say, well, we're gonna use the money from homestead exemption, but we're not gonna know what that is until commitment. But we wanted to make sure we include it in the warrant article so that we can use it. Because if we don't put it in there, then we can't use it.
Very good sense.
Yeah.
Another place where reserve's been,
That's why it drifts
That's-
upward.
Yep. That's very good.
In the original one I had sent you, I forgot to put the Abby Fowler in, so it's in here. Article 26 now. The original one that I gave you, when I was going through my,
Okay, yep.
and putting the articles in there, I somehow omitted the Abby Fowler one. Article 33, I adjusted that number, I know we talked about it and had a motion at the board and budget committee for 18,060, but when I was looking at the other from last year, those are fixed figures. Technically, we don't need that article, but I put it in there.
yeah, you don't need that article.
Right, because the townspeople have already said
We gotta
you're
pay
allowed
the
to get
debt.
the loan
Yeah.
and you have to pay the debt. So
That's
that article
There you
does not even need to be there.
Right.
But I put it there because it was there.
That's good to know.
But I used the same dollar figure that they had been using in the past.
Why do we need to put it there? I mean, seriously, the town has already,
Correct, you
we
don't need
voted
to
to
put it
borrow the
there.
money.
That's
We
right,
already voted to pay it back.
that's right,
We don't need an article every
that's
year.
correct.
I would
Pay
take
the
it
debt
out.
service.
I can take it out.
I wouldn't, it doesn't need to.
It is superfluous.
What are you gonna do if somebody voted it down?
Or passes over it.
Or, yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
townspeople
that-
already,
yeah, that's
already
not
voted
even-
to
that's
borrow
not even
that
Right,
Right,
money.
and
not even
that's why you
an
don't put the school question on there and you
Right.
don't put county tax, you have to pay them.
Correct, and
So
that's
this
why I
falls
wouldn't
under
put
that
that in.
thing.
So the debt service we have to pay as well.
We're already committed to that. The
Right.
town has already voted to spend that money.
Yes,
I wouldn't, yeah, I'd
Okay.
take it out.
I can take that out. And then some of the warrant articles I had gone, I sent you the law. I think I scanned them all and sent them to you. So Article 5 was on,
Yep.
the interest rate, we know is increased to 8% this year.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I hate to break in, but I just saw where the school is, and we'll do it for $395.
Oh, there you go.
Save you a
Bingo.
lot of pounds.
There you go. Fantastic. You know, I was gonna ask him that question after he suggested the Abbey Fowler.
See, I wasn't going to, because I know this, when they connect over there,
Yeah,
that
It's right
all of these houses right here, they're gonna connect into that, because they're
Yeah.
all under Moosehead. All of these houses here all have cable.
oh, they do?
So, yeah,
Oh.
this loop in here,
Oh,
it's gonna be
they're
one of-
already,
it's gonna get hooked up.
it's a done
yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Article
I already
6
picked up on that.
You are sharp.
is prepayment.
6?
So you have to have the townspeople vote to accept prepayment, otherwise, if anybody pays more than then you
Yep.
have to pay it back.
Correct.
Article 7, that was one of the ones that I said was a duplicate. It's not a duplicate
It's
because
not a
this one is on abated taxes. So like, if your house burns down before April 1st, but it doesn't get taken off your tax bill, and you get a bill and you pay it, or your escrow pays it, they have to pay you back with interest.
We have to pay
4%.
them back.
We have to pay
them back.
We have to
With
pay them
interest.
back.
With
if-
4%
yeah,
interest.
with 4% interest on abated taxes only. And that 4% is set by state law.
Okay,
It has to be within 4% of what you're charging.
okay.
That was Article 7. And then Article 44.
Just another spot where you can do mistakes.
Yeah.
This is the nomination process that we, and I have the law here that references that, and MMA wrote the article for us.
I'm wondering if there should be some language to describe the impact of this. In other words, are you required to give signatures? How many days in advance? That's sort of language.
Well, they can, it's,
They have to reference
They- yeah,
they have to
Yeah, when people are voting, they're not gonna know.
No, I know.
well, we've got this right here. I mean, we can take this when they discuss it.
So you get a
What is
motion,
it?
a second, you can
This
read
is
it.
That's the
law.
law.
It's that one paragraph, basically.
That's a statute.
It's the
The-
statute, yes, is when any town accepts this section at a meeting held at least 90 days before annual. The following provisions apply to the nomination of all town officials required by section 2525 to be elected by ballot, except for the moderator, and to the nomination of any other officials, which the town designates by a separate article in the warrant at the time of acceptance. No change may be made thereafter in the nomination of town officials except at a meeting held at least 90 days before the annual meeting. Number 1, nomination papers and certificate of political caucus. The nomination of candidates for any office shall be nomination papers or certificate of political caucus as provided in section 2528. The names of candidates nominated in the office for which they are nominated shall be attested by the clerk and posted at least 7 days before town meeting. I will look up this section 2528, but they have the number of, depending on the population of the town, minimum of 25, no more than 100 is this size town. So that's what their nomination papers would be. They'd have to get 25, minimum of 25 signatures, and they would have to turn them in 7 days prior to town meeting.
So that, I'm wondering if we want that language, an example.
My other concern too is the school board issue. When we do this, is this gonna apply to school board?
Yes, it does apply to
I
school board.
think that's gonna be a very bad thing.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work.
So we can't peel it off. We can't peel off the school board.
Nope. If you do it, you're doing it for everything. You can't say school board or, I mean, I think it's a good thing for selectmen.
know, I
but
do.
You gotta bribe people at town meeting to get them on the school board.
Well,
You're not gonna get anybody to
but
petition
think of
it.
this though. Nobody runs for school board, that's okay, because the select board has the right to appoint somebody for the next
Afterwards?
meeting, yes.
Okay.
Until the next regular, town meeting. So, and then that position would go up for election the following year. So if nobody runs, it's not a big deal, you just appoint
You
somebody.
would just
Sure.
appoint somebody.
And, you know, if you're gonna pre-announce, maybe somebody would give it some thought. I mean, people have been put on the spot during town meeting,
I
would you do this?
Right,
Right.
But if they knew that they had to get their nomination papers and
Yeah,
I had it done.
See, I'm looking at the other way.
You are.
If you're not-
Glass half
if
empty.
you're not- Yeah, my glass is completely empty on this one. If you're not willing to step up at town meeting and willingly and voluntarily do it, you're probably not gonna go get a petition and get signatures. I mean, I just don't see it, but.
Oh, and you can always have write-in.
no, but the remedy is we
I'll
can
check
appoint.
that.
We can appoint, so it doesn't
Maybe
matter.
not.
So it doesn't,
No, because then
yeah.
that defeats the
Right,
purpose.
defeats the purpose,
Yeah.
right. No, we just have a write-in.
We just appoint them at the following meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, at that,
You can volunteer, we'll just pick you.
yeah, show up.
That's how it works where I work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's not just a point, that's discipline.
So back to that language, do we want that language on the article?
Not
somewhere?
all of that legal
But the
stuff,
7 days
yeah, just
and the
the
25
simple-
signatures.
you need
Right.
something to explain it a little bit more.
Right.
Or we simply
Or you just read it.
just share it with them, say, this is what this will amount to.
Right.
If I had to bet, I bet it doesn't pass,
I don't think it will either. I'll be surprised.
but you never know. The reason it's out here is people ask for it.
I can put a little thing in my manager's message. We'll see if anybody reads it. But I will have the law, I mean, just like I've got the law here tonight, I will have that law.
Yeah, that's fine, that should
It's
suffice.
gonna be the last thing on the warrant?
It's
close to last.
44 and there are 47.
Excuse me, after half of them left.
I know.
Well,
that may help it get through then, because there might be
No,
people
we have
sitting there waiting.
one closer into there, so I'm sure that we could go with it. For 46,
Yes.
do we have numbers? Because this is gonna be part of that conversation when this goes to
I
discussion.
know we have just Brian Howard's number.
Okay, could
I've
we
gotta
try
call-
to get something from Robbie Haley?
Yes.
Because when this comes up, there is gonna be something to do with the green space, and I would like to have something from a firm number. So if you don't wanna go this direction, we can at least get a census from the room. This is
Right.
what it costs to go to a green space, and see what everybody's reaction is and how do we go forward. So,
Yep. I have talked to him, I just haven't gotten a response from him yet.
Well, you mean,
yep,
To demolish it.
To demolish.
And to,
the thought process is we don't sell it, some people still
Still-
believe it ought to be a green space.
right.
So if it's gonna be a green space, that's a huge expense to turn that into one. So,
We wanna know
Part of
that
this.
number. And to be able to present that number,
okay,
Right.
because it's,
define green?
A park.
that building's
The
gone.
building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a park.
green,
Well, they
Lawn.
voted twice to get it demolished, so I don't think the third time will slow them down.
We did get one quote, but we want a second,
Second, yeah.
just to see how close they are. But
Yeah,
That can be accomplished too in stages, where we can demolish it and then wait until we have a little more money and then maybe seed it or whatever.
the one thing that, it's too bad Chris left already, but the whole reason behind getting the grant is to reuse the building. That's why they give the grants, because
That's
you
why
wanna
they
get
spend
rid of
all
the
the
PCBs and the asbestos, so that the building can be reused. Not that it's requirement to reuse the building, but that is the reasoning behind the grants, and we did get a lot of money for the,
And did you ask the question, whether then it could be demolished? I mean, was it remediated,
It's
for
clean.
reuse and or
It's
being
clean.
demolished? Oh, okay,
it's a clean space.
oh, okay.
yeah.
So that was okay to use the grant, even if we then,
It's kinda okay, but they don't really like the idea. is
Right,
what he
right,
said.
sure.
It's not what the grant was intended to be used for.
Correct.
This is new, this is good.
Yeah, I can have Chris,
We haven't got the grant yet, right?
no,
yeah,
no,
we've
no,
already done
yes.
it.
No, we
Oh,
spent
yes,
it.
it's
Yeah.
completely,
last.
We cleaned the building.
it's completely
Yeah.
remediated.
The building's
It was
clean,
announced at town meeting, huh?
200 large.
200,000, yeah, yeah.
When was this?
Couple years ago?
2015,
Was
3 years ago?
2015,
get it into condition so it could be used.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a while ago.
But that's already spent.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Right, now it's clean.
done.
And it's clean now.
all
Clean.
done.
Yes, it is.
That's
Oh,
right.
okay, all right.
That's right.
Yes,
I thought you had just gotten another one.
No.
Oh, no, no.
Oh, God,
no, 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 no.
You know, no, there isn't a grant available to take it down.
okay, I didn't
That's
think.
not an option.
On the, another thing that on the previous warrant that I had given you, I had just told you that the Martins grant and the Abbey Fowler grant were both overdraft. And I've done some research on those, and the reason why Martin's grant was overdraft is, when some of the requests for reimbursement were submitted, the invoices were not included, so they did not pay out on them, even though the town had already paid for those. So that's why our dollars didn't match, because some of the invoices were not submitted. So that note it's Article 41, the note is on there.
That can be questioned, I mean, that can be asked to be repaid.
They can ask to be repaid, but we want to be known as a town that supports small business.
I fully support small businesses, and that's why we did the grant, but we did a grant, that was a contract, it was for X amount of money.
But it wasn't Martin's Cleaning Service that made the mistake. It was the town that didn't submit the bills
To the grant.
to the grant. Yeah,
So the grant didn't pay them, and then the grant got closed.
because the grant got spent, all of it, with actual invoices that were submitted.
We submitted invoices that exceeded the grant. Now, they delayed payment originally because we didn't have proper paperwork. I guess that's what you're saying.
Well, they didn't delay it, payment, they just didn't pay
They
it.
skipped it.
Right, and then I think there was a changeover, I think that might have been when Ken left. And maybe the person that took over didn't know that they had to submit those invoices, so somewhere
Chris
along
was
the
involved
line.
in all of
Chris
that.
was involved, and that's who I talked to, and that's how we figured it out, that those original invoices weren't submitted. So, and then on the Abbey Fowler grant, Article 42, it was a $20,000 matching grant, and there was only ever $10,000 that was appropriated. So the 7444 is the remainder of that matching. So any other questions on?
Again, though, these are, I mean, they can't really vote no on these. I mean, you can, but what will happen, I guess?
There'll be just some discussion, and maybe they'll be not as so inclined in the future to give grants.
Right, but
Think
that,
it- or You mean that the town won't get grants?
Well, they won't, the townspeople will vote to not take a grant because of being burned.
Now, if someone
By-
asks, it's entirely possible that at town meeting, someone says, well, why can't we get that $900 back?
Yeah, it is entirely possible that you can ask for that, but keep in mind, it wasn't, he was told that he
No, I'm not
had to.
suggesting that, I'm saying,
Right.
what's the,
He-
it may be that we can't ask for it back.
No,
Do
you
we?
can.
We can.
We can ask, townspeople can ask for it back from Martin's Cleaning Service, because it's supplies and stuff. The last $1,000 or so is supplies and, not equipment, but, main janitorial, so it's all supplies.
We're not inclined to ask for it back at this point, I guess. We have never.
I would take it to
considered
the townspeople and let them vote on it. If they vote, if this would be your conversation, if they vote that down, then the next step would be to try to get the money back. That would be the ramifications of that, right?
In that particular
On
one.
that particular one.
Yeah.
I mean, the other one, I think I don't know what we're gonna do on that one. I don't think there's anything we can do.
There's nothing we can do about that.
No,
Because you can't go
because
after anybody for the money.
they actually voted to approve the grant.
Sure.
Right.
With the 20% match, they just never appropriated 20,000, which was the estimated portion of the 20%.
When you say they never appropriated, what does that mean?
Who,
Who did?
whoever designed the budget didn't put in the
That's-
dollar amounts. So you can see here in fiscal year 15, the 10,000 was put in and it was carried to 16 because the work hadn't been done.
Oh, okay, I see, and they didn't.
And then they never
didn't add the next
appropriated
layer.
another 20,
When they
another
prepared the
10.
budget.
10 to go with it,
yep.
To go with it.
Ah.
Right.
So that happened 2 years ago.
15 was the original 10,000.
Which carried to
Which
16.
carried to 16.
Should have been another 10.
When he saw the 10 preparing for the budget, he thought he was all set. He didn't realize he hadn't
So
spent
they
it
had
yet.
10 in there.
Okay,
That
that one makes sense?
That's
So that one actually goes back to as far as Canada.
Yeah,
Yep,
they both.
Both do.
both do.
Both do.
Yes,
No?
yes. The Martins one was Ken. He
In
did
the
not
beginning, but
submit
it didn't-
those invoices.
I don't think he was here to submit those invoices.
Yes. You don't think so?
I don't think he was, I think in the beginning, yes, but not towards.
The payment
end of it.
cycle?
He actually signed them.
Correct.
He signed the invoices. I have them.
Well, that's pretty good. I'm going with Lois on
Okay,
that one.
we'll go with it, but I question it. I don't think so. Cause I'm pretty sure Chris had to finish that stuff up, and it was, when Chris took over, that was not paid out fully.
No, but that's what
That's
she's
correct,
saying.
but the
That's-
original
Correct.
40-something thousand Ken did. And
Right.
those invoices was in that original
There was a lot more
40-something
than
thousand.
90, there was a lot more than $900 left to go on that grant.
Right,
That's
but
what
the
I'm saying.
erroneous ones that caused the mistake were in the pipeline already.
Right.
Right,
That's what.
That can-
If I'm understanding.
yes.
Right. So they didn't get paid. We didn't get reimbursed because the paperwork wasn't correct.
correct.
So then we kept spending.
Correct.
Based on looking at the grant totals, they're
Right.
like, oh, we got this much more we can spend.
Okay, I follow that.
Okay. That's gonna be hard to explain.
Getting
You get a
grants
lot
is
of
one skill
questions on
set,
that, isn't
implementing
it?
is another skill set.
And that's
That's
exactly what
gonna
Chris
be-
Lynn
and
said.
people-
said.
And
Nothing's free, I mean, you're getting it from one bucket and taking it out of another.
So all we wanna do is remove that one article on debt services.
I would,
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, so I will have to reprint this,
sorry.
and you'll have to come in.
Oh, and sign.
Do you
sign
wanna
it.
print it? Is it as easy as print it tonight? or-
No, she's gonna renumber.
I've gotta renumber.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
I have a question. There was discussion about the Historical Society doing lunch. Are they doing lunch? No,
Yes.
they are doing lunch.
They are doing lunch,
Even though we're starting at 9 a.m.
yes.
So even if
Always
we,
started it.
Always started at 9.
yeah, okay. But I mean, in the most recent years, we've ended so early that it's not lunchtime.
Last year,
No?
last year was probably the earliest I think I've seen.
Yeah, no, it's,
A lot of articles on there this year.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Usually,
So,
it seems to have been
but you
summer, not
want
less.
a motion to
We
accept?
should have had supper.
I think that would probably bring just to
Or
cover
we should have
us.
had lunch
Yeah,
and
I
supper.
think, because then we can come in and sign it later.
Correct.
So
I may not be here.
Thanks.
the editing that we just agreed to needs to be in the motion, or?
My
No.
daughter's having a baby in New York City.
We'll-
don't you?
She can.
You can say it
She,
on
well,
there,
trust me, she's
but you'll
doing
just
right
know,
now.
but it's,
I'm not going
Okay.
right now.
So-
So, we'll see.
We need a motion to accept the amended article that we have just discussed. And then, we'll come in later and sign it.
and then the
Okay.
warrant.
So,
Yeah, the warrant, exactly.
make a motion to, take, Article, what was that, 33, remove Article 33, and from the warrant. Is that all we need?
Well, you want to
Accept-
accept
And you're gonna
the
accept all.
amended
Accept.
warrant.
Oh, and accept the amended warrant with Article 33 removed.
Second.
Any further discussion? None? Vote? Unanimous.
Okay.
We're done, new business.
Is that where we are?
We're down to old business and mowing.
You have a spreadsheet that has the mowing information on it. So I put out, the bids for the rec field and the roadside mowing. And this is what I received back. Orman Gray for roadside mowing, $2,500 a year, but he will only do a 6-year contract. And $2,500 for each of those 6 years. The Sangerville Veterans Memorial Park, $3,800 from Orman Gray, and he then put in an additional $500 for doing the boat launch and the swim front for 22 weeks. And some of those weeks would be twice a week on the new section. Aggressive Cuts only bid in on roadside mowing, $1,400.70, and he is offering that same price for two more years. So he would, if we choose, I mean, he's not saying it has to be a 3-year contract, he's just
Sure.
saying, this
Right.
is what I'm offering for you, but this year would be the $1,400.
What's he mowing with, you know?
Big difference in price.
It is, it's $1,000.
Um,
Wide machine.
He says 10 feet, at least 10 feet from the edge of the road to a surface height of no more than 6 inches.
What's he using?
He just says mowing time, doesn't say what he's using. Huh?
Yeah, he didn't say what he was using. He has a lot of references. He does a lot of towns.
Where's he from?
Herman.
Whoa.
It's Rick Drew.
Never heard of him. Who's the other guy that usually puts in?
Mr. Lambert used to.
Yeah.
Lambert, Vance Lambert. He didn't put in. Donald Pepin did not put in. I can't remember who else. He doesn't say.
Well, these numbers officially don't really need us anyway, right?
Pardon?
You don't need us to make motions on these anyway, right?
Nope. And we
I
can't do
don't.
multi-year, I mean, we're not gonna put it on the
Correct.
warrant, so.
And then S&C Lawn Care, bid the Memorial Park for 3,000. That included the boat launch and the swim front. And if we wanted, that was only for 20 weeks, so if it's earlier and we need an extra week, he would do for $150 for each of the extra mowings.
Did you set the number of weeks, or did your bid just say mowing season? I'm kinda confused why we're getting
All of a sudden,
different
they're
weeks.
saying number of weeks.
Yeah.
It's gotta be this one.
I mean, if no rain the last 2 weeks, you're not mowing anyway, so I don't think it's, depends on the weather, but.
Well, I thought I had it in here. Because I knew you were gonna ask something, and it's like, I need to print those off. I did set the number of weeks.
So was one 2 weeks short, or the other one had 2 weeks? That's the question, I guess.
No, I just said 2018 summer season.
So if you're awarded off that, I really don't, doesn't matter about weeks.
Right.
I mean, if they have to mow 20 or 22, that's them, not us,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it says, including the Veterans Memorial Park fields, including boat launch and public swim front for the 2018 summer season. Will include the fields on both sides of the public boat launch drive. Both sides of the public boat launch drive in all area around the parking, around the rocks, all the way to Route 23. So that was everything.
Mowing isn't like snow removal.
In what way?
Well, if you contract to remove snow for the winter, if it snows a lot, you spend a lot of money. If it doesn't snow at all, you don't spend any money. But the mowing, they're approaching it as you get a certain number of weeks. You can't call them and say, this
That's not
grass
how
is
she
too
did it.
long.
Summer season, 2018 summer
Should we
season.
bid this out the same way as we did the snowplow?
Right, but that's not how they're looking, what I'm saying is they're looking at this like, you're getting a weekly commitment from me, is how they're looking at it.
Well,
Right.
that's not the bid.
Well, back to your grass that grows too fast.
It's no different than snow.
That's what I'm
And
suggesting.
that's why we put this out to bid the same way with mowing.
Right.
We put out a bid to have it mowed for the season. Whether or not, if it doesn't rain for 4 weeks and they don't have to mow it, that's kudos for them. But it's nothing to do with,
And if it needs to be mowed on Monday and again on Thursday, that's
That's their problem.
that's their problem.
they're not looking at it this way.
I
But
would
it says
clarify.
here, I mean, the comment, those comments are from them, not for you. Those aren't your comments, right? Because, I mean, the Orman says, some weeks will be twice on the new field.
Right.
Yes, and S&C Lawn Care says 150 per mowing and weed whacking for 20 weeks.
Yeah, that's weird.
But he broke it out per mowing, but is the cost 3,000?
Total 3,000.
Okay, so he took 150 times 20.
So he took 150 times 20.
So
Oh,
I
so
would
that's
clarify
not-
with him.
Yeah, what
It's
happens?
the mowing season.
It's
Right.
the mowing, we don't look at this as how many times you're gonna mow that lawn.
Right.
We're saying, it's the season, it's no different, CW knew, we don't say we're gonna pay you $5,000 to plow the roads every storm.
Right.
The only problem with that is, I mean, then you have to say, I mean, like the snowstorms, you say at 3 inches, they have to come back out and plow. Do you have to then say how long grass?
You might.
What is our acceptable
you might.
height of the
Correct.
grass on the soccer
Because
field?
we literally
Well,
have
playable
2 inches
fields.
on the snow. I think that it's 2 inches.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2 inches, they're supposed to be up plowing.
right. So if we put it out that way, then you kind of have to say what's acceptable as the
I
height
just
of
find it kind of
grass.
interesting that they all gravitated towards this week formula and you didn't. It's
didn't
interesting.
specify
Maybe
22
that's the way that they're doing it in other towns, I don't know. But
Yeah, I think people just typically mow once a week.
But I think for like, I mean, I could see in my head, if I was gonna put a bid in, I might look at it that way, but that's not what we're asking for, is my only thing,
Right.
So I guess, I really like this number that's $1,300 cheaper than somebody else. And I would really like to go that direction, but at the same time, he needs to make sure that that number,
He's still not,
thinking-
even with the 150 per mowing, he's not gonna get close to the next number. But I
No,
agree.
you're talking about the guy from.
So if needs 2 times a week,
I don't care, no, I would tell
Up to
him,
the season.
we don't care. If you mow it once, you mow it 100 times, I don't care. What are
Right.
you gonna charge me to mow that for the season?
okay,
In a playable field, so those fields have to be mowed for playing.
okay.
And that would mean for, it's like if someone says, hey, this road over here needs to be plowed. The rec director calls and says, this field needs to be mowed.
It's a little bit more tricky with that soccer field because
Yeah.
if there's a game, it's gonna wanna be
It's a
mowed.
lot of grass.
Yeah,
And if he's gonna run the water over there, and I think he's planning on doing that. That grass,
you think he's gonna run water?
that's what he was saying.
To water the grass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Only on the new section by the
I think.
by the
that's
gazebo? That's not
The
grass?
new, the new
The
field. The new
soccer
field.
field.
Why?
I don't think he needs
So
to
that
run
it's
water
green
there.
I think we'll probably
And-
have to have a conversation about that.
If he does irrigate, that grass is gonna grow like crazy.
It did last year, it was nuts.
And PJ's put in for 6,000 on the, and he knew he knew the parameters, so.
6,000, do you think that, and that's the boat launch and everything?
He did.
It's
Yes.
just
He doesn't wanna
What?
do it. He doesn't wanna do it, I don't think.
oh, okay.
He still does the cemeteries, he does a great job.
Yep. All right, so I need more clarification.
Well, and the great thing is like this, that you basically, while you communicate with them, you handle it.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know how we feel or direction what, so.
That's the end of old business. Any correspondence?
No.
Request for additional agenda items?
I will be out Monday and Tuesday, so if something happens, if somebody calls the office, do you want the ladies to give you a call?
If it can't wait, and somebody wants to speak to
Somebody?
that's perfectly fine, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope,
No executive session, I assume?
nope.
Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you all for coming.
Oh.